You the news update on the business edge of the show. We're live on Facebook at Metro TV Ghana and also on DSTV channel 277. Let's settle for our headlines now. The U.S. as President Donald Trump imposes a 10% tariff hike on Ghanaian exports effective this week. We bring you an exclusive interview with the Deputy Minister for Trade and Agribusiness. Also coming up, Ghanaian students studying abroad stranded as government delays in stipend payments. We have the latest on the Plight today. And also coming up in this bulletin, President of the Czech Republic arrives in Ghana for a two-day official visit, the first by a Czech head of state in over 60 years. The details of these and many more coming up in this bulletin. Many thanks for joining us. Please stay with us. Hello again, many thanks for joining us here on Good Afternoon Ghana. And so we begin from the office of the Vice President, and Professor Nano Pukwajaman has commenced a 3-week medical break effective Monday, 7th April, following a doctor's advice to prioritize her health and recovery. The development was confirmed by sources at Jubilee House, with the Vice President said to be responding well to treatment after recent health concerns. Initial care was provided at the University of Ghana Medical Center before she sought further treatment abroad. Providing an update during a community engagement in Lagos, Nigeria on April 6, the Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa assured Ghanaians that Professor Nano Pukwajaman is in stable condition and will return to official duties soon. Okay, so we move away from that to the plight of Ghanaian students studying abroad, and those of them on government scholarships are raising urgent concerns over the non-payment of their stipends and allowances for the past 11 months. In a letter addressed to President John Dramani Mahama, the Coalition of Ghana Scholars Abroad is pleading for swift intervention to resolve the dire financial situation many of them currently face. And Emmanuel Adam Susu is a student studying in Russia, and he joins us via Zoom for a conversation on this. Emmanuel, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us here on the bulletin.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers.
Great. Emmanuel, we want to see you, and so if you could kindly put on your camera so we can communicate.
Yes, I think I'm visible now.
Great. So how are you faring in Russia, and really, have you not been paid your stipends for 11 months? Is that what it is?
Yes. Once again, I want to say a very good afternoon to all Ghanaians and to everybody. The situation is that our stipends have not been paid for 10 months now. That is in Russia, but some other jurisdiction like Cuba, Algeria, Morocco, China, and some other places are having been paid for more than 10 months, 11 months, 12 months, and counting. So the situation is quite dire at the moment right now. Students are really stranded and really, really broke, actually. So would really want to plead with the government. His Excellency, the President John Dramani Mahama, we are aware of the good things he has begun doing in the country. So therefore, we are calling on him as a father to turn his eyes on us and then take care of us as well.
I want to understand, if it's about 10 months, then it means that in the previous administration, that was where it began. When the delays started, what were some of the steps that were taken by yourself and many others in trying to get your monies, and what explanations did you get? And also, now that there's a new government, Has there been any form of conversation about this before?
Actually, yes. Since last year, we've been having conversation with the secretariat, scholarship secretariat, and anytime we contact them, they tell us the monies have not yet been given out. So once they receive the money, they are going to make payments. We followed up several times, but that is all that they say to us every time we call upon them. Our various embassies have also done their jobs very well. I mean, Russia embassy and other embassies have also followed up with same letters, calls, text messages, everything. But that is what the situation had been since. We don't know why it was like that. And this current administration came into power. We've also reached out to them, but you know, as at then, the new registrar had not been appointed. So once he came into office, we reached out to him, and he assured us that things are being put in place to get our monies paid. But as to when, we have no assurance to that. As to when the money is going to be paid, we don't know. So it's like we are still in the dark, waiting as to when it's going to come. But we trust and believe that once this plea reaches the president, he will surely make something good out of it and then turn his eyes on us.
Okay. For many of us here in Ghana or watching who may not understand what you go through as students abroad and having your stipends delayed, paint a picture for us. How is it like living abroad without, you know, enough money on you on campus?
Yes, this situation it's quite difficult. Yes, very difficult sometimes. Because for example, in Russia, you know how big Russia is geographically. So the states are scattered all over, and there are some states where there's only a Ghanaian student, and it's very difficult. Sometimes even transportation to school is difficult. They have to call upon student leaders and other people to borrow money and to lend them money and other things. Some students call and they're like, "Oh, leader, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me?" It's very difficult. Even sometimes food to eat becomes an issue. So the union has some coffers. So sometimes we lend out or we stretch forth our helping hand, but it isn't enough. The students are really going through a lot, especially with, I can't say for women alone, but the men as well. Because on our various platforms, all of them are complaining. They are every day complaining on the neck of the leadership as though we are those who are holding on to the money. But I understand their plight and what they are going through, because even sometimes during medicals, when it's time for medicals to be done, they have to borrow money from other nationals to go and take care of their medicals. Students are owing a lot, and they tell us this every day. So the situation is quite dire at the moment. Very, very difficult. Yes.
Okay. Well noted. And just before you go, as you are a student resident in Russia, just want to understand from you how you're coping with everything that is happening in terms of the Russia-Ukraine back and forth, the war and all that. How's that been for you as a student in that country?
Actually, it's it's been fine. I'll say it's been fine because thank God there's been no issue of someone being hurt, casualty or anything. No, everything is under control. The Russian government is doing whatever it can to take care of everybody and its citizens. So, but the cost of living keeps rising due to sanctions and other things. That has been the major issue at the moment. Cost of living keeps rising. That has been the major issue. Apart from that, everything is fine. So, okay, we keep coping.
Great. Thank you very much for speaking with us, and we're hoping that there'll be some way coming through very soon. So thank you very much. Emmanuel Adam Susu is a Ghanaian student in Russia, talking to us about how they're being affected from the delays of stipends, and they have actually written a letter to the president asking that something be done about this situation. Definitely we'll be keeping tabs on this and bring you more details subsequently. Now, away from that, we go to the Volta region, and a mysterious skin disease outbreak is causing widespread suffering among residents of Avetakpo, a farming enclave in the Mepe Bavier de Kume area in the region. Here is more.
Chief Chief of Mepegbevi de Kume, Togbi Kwesi Amedo III, has raised the alarm over the growing number of infections, particularly among children and adults. He says those affected are battling severe skin irritation, prolonged body pain, and sleep deprivation. Despite the worsening situation, many residents are unable to seek medical attention due to financial constraints. According to Togbe Amedo III, the Queen Mother of the area, Mama Akuseme II, requested help from the whole West District Health Directorate of the Ghana Health Service, prompting a visit by the health officials. However, treatment has been delayed due to budgetary requirements. The Directorate reportedly set an amount of 6,642.50 for the community to pay before treatment could begin, an amount the community has not been able to raise. He disclosed that the disease has now spread to neighboring communities, affecting more than 46 people. The chief is calling for immediate government intervention, including funding for mass treatment and preventive measures to stop further transmission. He also criticized the lack of transparency from the health officials, noting that the community has not been informed of the disease's name or source. Poor sanitation and lack of access to clean drinking water are suspected to be contributors of the outbreak.
And also, it's one that we'll be paying keen attention to from the Volta region, and definitely will bring you more details of that subsequent. But still staying with health, the Private Health Facilities Association of Ghana has instructed its members to charge National Health Insurance Scheme cardholders for their services. The association has cited prolonged delays in reimbursement as reason for their decision.
The Deputy General Secretary of the Private Health Facilities Association of Ghana, Aaron Nyameche, has defended the decision of the private health facilities, stating that the outstanding arrears owed private health facilities by the National Health Insurance Authority have placed significant financial strain on private health providers, which is affecting their ability to operate effectively. According to him, even though government through the NHIS has released a statement comforting and giving them some assurance that indeed they are going to pay for the services and have started the process, the association say they want to see evidence that the payments are in the accounts of the service providers. The Deputy General Secretary reiterated their decision, stating that the association is going to stand by their action and may intensify their stance in the coming days. They have promised to announce to the general public its intention of taking money from clients who visit their facilities because there is no money to run health care.
Now, the Chief Executive Officer for the Light Foundation, Abubakar Ali Napari, has called on government to, as a matter of urgency, address the water crisis situation in Nangbagu, a community in the Tolon district of the northern region, while residents for years have been denied access to potable drinking water.
Nangbagu consists of two main communities, namely Nangbagu Yapala and Nangbagu Yakura. For decades, the community has been denied access to potable drinking water, an essential commodity for survival. The only stream in the area that residents use, together with grazing livestock, has now dried up, forcing residents to trek miles to adjoining communities to fetch water. Despite taps in some households, residents say water hardly flows through them, a phenomenon that has made life extremely unbearable for the people. Chief Executive Officer for the Light Foundation, Abubakar Ali Napari, lamented over the neglect and called for support when he donated some items to residents during the month of Ramadan.
The entire community, we don't have toilet facility, and then we don't have water. I mean, there are types in the community, but it doesn't flow. Sometimes a month or two without the tap flow. And then the stream, the only source of water, now the stream has dried up. In terms of this period that we are in, the dry season is very, very difficult. And then people are suffering. And then not all families can afford to buy water to get. So, and they have children in their community and all this. So therefore, I call upon benevolent NGOs and then well-meaning Ghanaians to come to the aid, so that at least the community can be supported with the mechanized boreholes. Now, when you look at the household, only few households that you can see that they have household toilet facility. If they have community toilet, and then standard one is going to help the community.
Nangbagu community is not only faced with water crisis but lack of proper road network. Meanwhile, Sustainable Development Goal 6 focuses on access to safe drinking water, sanitation and hygiene, while also addressing water quality and efficiency.
We still stay in the northern region, and the University of Development Studies, in collaboration with 4 universities from Germany, have launched a project to research into the possible effects of climate change on pregnant women and their unborn babies in the region. Now, this project is also targeted at finding out if infant mortality has any link to climate change.
The infant mortality rate in northern Ghana is higher than the national average, with estimated ranging from 59 to 111 deaths per 1,000 live births, even though the national average stands at 32 deaths per 1,000 births. This high rate of mortality is attributed to many factors, including poor health services, socio-economic conditions, and many others. The researchers are therefore digging to possibly uncover if climate change contributes to this high infant mortality in northern Ghana, where extremely hot weather conditions are normally experienced. The research, dubbed The Impact of Climate Change on Health, is being carried out by 4 universities, which includes Heidelberg University, Charity University, Martin Luther University, all in Germany, and the University of Development Studies in Ghana. Professor Elliot Haruna Al-Hassan is the Pro-Vice Chancellor for UDS. He spoke to the media.
Northern Ghana, in Ghana, that's where we have the high temperatures, and especially where we want to conduct this study in the Kansana, Nankana, East and West Districts, Navrango and Paga. The temperatures are very high there. We are told about 10 years ago, when women have their babies, because of heat, there were special rooms where they will put these babies so that they will not have some respiratory diseases, and then that will lead to death. Now we want to get to know what actually the cause of these deaths as a result of this heat, and what interventions out of this research, the recommendation that will be made so that we can help reduce infant mortality.
The launch also brought together stakeholders from various areas, including traditional leaders who were very impressed and happy for the upcoming research. Here is Navro Pio, Paramount Chief of Navrongo Traditional Area.
And there's not going to be any difference in this one too. I believe that the chiefs and people of Navrongo are prepared, ever prepared, to receive anybody who is coming with projects like you just brought. I will say the health of the Navrongo people is dear to my heart. So anything health, I'm there.
And it's now time for our Tidy J segment. On the segment today, Markets Queen for Makola Kwasedra in the Greater Accra region, Lydia Abe, has charged fellow market queens across the country to prioritize good sanitation practices within their various markets in order for traders to sell very healthy and hygienic foodstuff to customers. My colleague Eko Sechisaki was at the market to monitor the sanitation situation.
IDGH will bring you to a popular market in the heart of the capital. The name of this market is called Makola Kwasedra, meaning the foolish market. In fact, what is being done here, or the way they uphold good sanitary practices, is in sharp contrast to the name Kwasedra. The place is neatly kept. it's difficult for you to see litters around compared to other markets where the place are badly littered. I was able to speak to the queen mother of this particular market, and she told us how they are able to ensure that good sanitation practices are being maintained.
The thing is, we have so many rules and regulations in this market, and as soon as you come to this market, you have to abide by the rules. If you don't abide by the rules, you go home and sit in your house. We sell food in this market, and sanitation is the first thing in this market. We don't want contaminated food in this market. We want anything that comes from this market to be consumable, and that is why this market is so neat.
Let me engage more of the traders to find out how they've been managing their waste when they create one. I have here with me one of the traders. Let me engage her and find out how she's able to do that.
So when you run a swa, this all your least mistake. You to make a crabia. You buy a penny or bear at the end to 10 beers. Yes, you may any bear who say, I dare ye no. I say ye, not whom massam. So a penny no hand or me will see a dance and ya. Or be high. It's in the yes, we dear who.
Despite the absence of waste bins position advantage places within the market, you hardly see litters on the floor. The sanitation practices here is worth emulating by other markets across the country. Reporting live for Metro Television, my name is Eko Sechisaki, Morkola Kwasiedraso, Accra.
While still staying on sanitation, the country director for International Rescue Committee, Ghana Vida Duty, has called for enhanced efforts by stakeholders within the water, sanitation and hygiene sectors to ensure implementation of policies. Now, this, according to her, will help with activities within the wash sector being more impactful.
Country Director for International Rescue Committee Ghana was speaking on the opening session of the Promise Consortium workshop. The platform highlights issues of national interest, especially those related to sanitation, health and sustainable development. According to the Country Director for International Rescue Committee, stakeholders within the wash sector must collaborate with government agencies to bridge the gap with policies within the sector and its implementation, which she maintains a huge challenge.
We have to intentionally work with other partners that will leverage and use the output of our work. So in this new configuration, we use the research findings, supported the district collectively to come up with what we call the wash master plans. Through that process, we were able to bring other NGOs that implement. So we find the systems that are broken, we find areas where there are no services, and it was easier for those that come in to do the implementation to pick it and do the implementation.
Director of the Center for Global Safe Water, Sanitation and Hygiene at Emory University, Professor Christine Moe, says Ghana must take a look at what it produces from the farms, which has a linkage of some form of contamination.
Our results showed that some foods, especially uncooked produce, can have high levels of fecal contamination. How does that happen? We need to understand, as produce moves from the farm to the market to the kitchen, how does it get contaminated and how can we prevent that contamination in order to make sure the food is safe and healthy for people to eat. Cholera in Ghana has been a wake-up call for action, that we need to really provide information to decision makers on how they can prevent cholera in the population. It's not just a waterborne problem, but also can be transmitted from contaminated food.
Kweku Kwanzaa is the head environmental health and management at the local government chieftaincy and religious affairs.
Increasingly issue of lack of evidence to be able to support implementation. We need a very strong, scientifically proven evidence to be able to support implementation. And for us, the coming into being of the Promise project is one of the opportunities we have to be able to assess what is happening in the sector and eventually use evidence to make a case for increased resource allocation into the sector.
The Promise Consortium workshop is themed strengthening evidence-based decision-making in WASH using decision support tools.
Let's do some other stories. And former young member of parliament, Mohammed Aziz, has welcomed the legalization of Okada and its policy, stating that it will create jobs and stabilize the economy. And the communications director of the New Patriotic Party, Richard Anyagba, says the Okada policy and its legalization are not preferred by those engaged in it, calling it a relapse. He also expressed concerns about public health, stating that legalization of Okada is an excuse for a proper government solution to the country's job problems and should not be welcomed. They spoke on Good Morning Ghana earlier.
I was there with the sector minister, Honorable Nipe.
Motor riding is as common as anything, especially in the morning when parents are taking their kids to school. And so I don't even understand why, if you ride a motorbike and you carry a friend, it is not a crime. But once you link it to a commercial activity or you want to take money for doing that same service, then it becomes a crime. I don't know what would have informed, but I'm sure what informed the law at that time would have been the rate of accident that they were recording. But it has become a space that we cannot stop today. And so if you can't stop it, you better regulate it. And so it is on that basis that President Mahama and the NDC says that we are going to amend the Road Traffic Regulations Act 2180 of 2012 to legalize the operations of Okada. And then the Minister of Transport would lead that charge because it is within their domain. I have every trust and confidence in Honorable Nipe, who also doubles as the MP for Saboba, to champion that issue. I know of 2 or so gentlemen who are already preparing to take advantage of training some Okada riders. I know a young man who is so much interested in it, but it is too early in the day to start to talk about it. But I think that it's a good move. We don't intend to betray the trust that the Ghanaian people bestowed on us. Like I was talking about some of the initiatives that we have taken so far. Either you are talking about the e-levy, the betting tax, every single promise that President Mahama made to the people of this country, we will try to the best of our ability to live up to it.
Now imagine the public health implication of that. That one helmet, however many thousand people that you carry in a day or in a year or whatever, will have to be wearing the same helmet. In Togo, just here in Togo. The solution they are using to address that is that every passenger has to buy, you have to buy your own helmet. You don't have a motor, but you have a helmet. So Annie, who is your producer, will have to have a helmet of her own. Your control person who is sitting right here will have to have a helmet. So when he's coming to work, apart from a handbag, she has to have a helmet this way if he wants to promote public health. Because one helmet, many passengers. That's going to worsen public health. So this thing here is an excuse for proper government solution to the problem of job in our country. We shouldn't welcome this. We shouldn't praise this, especially when they are going back to repeal a law which they themselves passed to say that this thing is wrong. Their first thought about banning this thing is right. Now, what they should be doing now, rather than repeal that thing, is to say, no, we are going to create opportunities. So my brother is saying here, thumping his chest, that everything we say we are going to do, if you promise bad thing and you are doing it, is bad.
It's not because you are doing it is good, it's bad. They themselves say it's bad, that Okada is bad. And now, if you look at the record, you are checking, just check and see the rate of accidents on our road. And motorbike accidents is grave.
I was there with the Sector Minister, Honorable Nikwe, that's the Sector Minister for Transport. And then we also sent a rep from the Pragya Association. We sent the President of the Ghana Okada Riders Association. Then the Chief Director of the Ministry of Transport was also there with a technical officer from DVLE and myself. We were all there. So it's a simple way to understand it, what the process are, how we can safely use the African solution to solve another African problem. That is all. So when we went there, the entire Okada riders in Rwanda, they were approximately about 47,928. Now they were all grouped under cooperatives. So every Okada rider has a cooperative under which he or she is operating. Now, they had 32 cooperatives. Now, the cooperatives deal with the insurance aspects of the Okada when they go to purchase and the agreement about high purchase. They come in as witness or someone who will give the backdrop for insurance. Now, in Rwanda, every rider on the streets is supposed to carry 2 helmets. Every rider on the streets is expected to carry 2 helmets. In Rwanda, every rider has a jacket which he or she identifies himself through a cooperative. So, assuming I am under a cooperative in Usu, we have a unique jacket we wear. When there's any issue, easily people are able to identify me under this very cooperative. Then in Rwanda as well, they all use the main road, they use the middle of the road, not the shirts of the road that we use in Ghana. Okay. So when there's any accident, the insurance company comes in with government subvention, they all come in to help. But most of their 2,000 or 4,000 of their motorbikes are EV, environmental friendly ones. Okay. They are EV. So in as much as we are also looking at reducing emission level in the system, there's also a proposal on board to also bring in some motorbikes. The assembly will be done in Ghana here, and then we'll have agreements. They will have agreements with the Okada Association and the Pragya Association to, as time goes on, changing the combustion ones in the system and introducing the EV.
And there you have the CEO of the DVLA, Julius Nikwekote, speaking on Good Morning Ghana earlier about the legalization of Okada. You're still watching the news update here on Good Afternoon Ghana, and we now move to the President to see where President John Mahama is set to host the President of Czech Republic, Peter Pavel, for a 3-day state visit to the country, marking the first official state visit under President Mahama's new term in office, according to a statement signed by the Minister for Government Communications and Presidential Spokesperson Felix Kwachufosu. The visit will reinforce diplomatic ties between Ghana and the Czech Republic and promote strategic cooperation across key sectors. And my colleague Shadrach Odamie Jare is right there joining me on Zoom. Hello, Shadrach. Good afternoon. Tell us, has the meeting begun, and any further stuff you can share with us?
Right, Desmond. So the President for Czech Republic has arrived in Ghana. That President, His Excellency Petro Pavel, who just arrived about 10 to 20 minutes ago. And President John Dramani Mahama is hosting him for 3 days. So he's going to be in Ghana for 3 days from Tuesday, which is today, April 8th, to the 10th of April 2025. Now, while in Ghana, the President of the Czech Republic will hold bilateral talks with President John Dramani Mahama and address the business forum. He will also inaugurate a Czech-funded health facility and for the Ufu Castle and also the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park. Now, the visit will be the very first state visit hosted by the President John Dramani Mahama since its return to the presidency in January 2025. Now, it is also worth noting that the Czech Republic's long-lasting relations with Ghana spans over 6 decades. So it was established just after Ghana's independence in 1959, the relations between Ghana and the Czech Republic. Then it was the Czechoslovakia, and subsequently they have been mutually beneficial since 1959. Now, also the diplomatic relations between Ghana and the Czech Republic in the past have led to the establishment of lots of infrastructure in the country. We can talk about factories like the Guhok Juice Factory, the Commander Sugar Factory, the Apostle Glass Factory, the Bunsu Tires, and then the Kumasi Shoe Factory. Also in recent years, Ghana has become the fourth largest trade partner of the Czech Republic among the countries south of the Sahara. So that's one, that is what we have so far. The whole team is yet to arrive we just left the Jubilee Lounge at the airport. They are yet to arrive at the presidency, where the president will formally receive the president's favor. But at the airport or at the Jubilee Lounge, the president of the Czech Republic was received by the Chief of Staff, Julius Debra, and other government officials like the Foreign Affairs Minister, Okuteto Ablafa, among a host of others that were there. So that's one. This is what we have been up to since morning at the Jubilee Lounge of the Ituka International Airport.
All right, thank you very much. Shadrach Odeme, Jerisa presidential correspondent, bringing to us the update on the arrival of the Czech Republican President Peter Pavel in the country for a 3-day state visit. And that's how we're wrapping up the news updates here on Good Afternoon Ghana. And today being Tuesday is the Business Edge. And so Emmanuel Akusiefe will take over the show after this break. Many thanks for staying with us. We'll be back shortly.
Sometimes the unexpected happens and the hero falls down in his own story. But he needs not stay down for long. Cosmopolitan Health Insurance is your trusted health partner. Whether an individual building a business, with Cosmopolitan Health Insurance, your medical care is our concern. For the best health insurance solutions for corporate institutions, groups and associations, families and individuals, choose Cosmopolitan Health Insurance from our over 700 accredited health service providers nationwide. Call us on 0302 540 668 or 0501 678 547 for all your health insurance solutions. Cosmopolitan Health Insurance, your medical care is our concern.
Yes, next. Hey, Nadia Benson,
me didn't tum. Mr. Femi Calico, just call me cockroach. Now, Mr. Femi once now.
Hey, that's a new. Improve car. Yeah. Captain was key to double the action.
Me did it, Sasso spray. Mr. Femi Sasso quell. Yeah, go to my Sasso.
Sasso, come on, Tom Preco.
In today's interconnected and interdependent world, nations and international businesses are increasingly appreciating the need to foster greater trade relations.
Get the inside views, vital information, trends and analysis on emerging trade giants in Ghana and beyond. International Trade Focus, the global television trade showcase, transcending barriers in creativity and innovation.
International Trade Focus has been developed to serve as your reliable platform for international business connections and trade events. Join me and Aspio as I bring you a whole menu of international trade activities.
International Trade Focus, your timely business hub. International Trade Focus is brought to you by GO, ADB, Pediasi Valley Resort and Public Elegance. International Trade Focus is brought to you by GO, ADB, Pediasi Valley Resort and Public Elegance.
I'll put my hand to my chest and say we are to blame because we have not demonstrated enough our role, our place at the table of men.
But aside from filling the gap, I think that it sends a signal to Africa that the time has come for us to be more self-reliant.
Wablema tesaji Yehowa, wablema tesaji Yehowa, hani jembi fele yake. Oh, wale na woyo.
Excuse me, sir.
Hello.
Please, next time, can you put in a dustbin?
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'll not do that again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. This afternoon, we are live from our studios here at Ridge in Accra. So the show started exactly 12 in the afternoon with my colleague Desmond. We call it the Good Afternoon Ghana. But precisely, this is the Business Edge. And so I've told you every Tuesday, every Thursday, you would see me live here with Business Edge. And today, we're supposed to have brought you the commodities markets, Forex, and all the markets. But maybe Thursday we'll be able to do that for you. And so you'll see the market trends and what's happening, how you have to work around your money, how you have to save them, and so on and so forth. So Thursday will bring you that. But for now, today we are focusing on what's happening across the globe. Are we going to end up in recession? Lots of experts are talking. Lots of people are expressing their opinion on what exactly is happening. We were actually here in Ghana watching the entire global economic space. What was happening between the US and that of China and Europe and Canada, and then the retaliating tariffs that had been going back and forth from different countries back to the United States of America. Now, Ghana, we have also faced, that's not solely for Ghana alone, but we have faced 10% tariff cut from the US President Donald Trump. Lots of businesses have been concerned because we can safely describe ourselves as a fledgling economy. We are now growing. We are now running around to become a developed economy. Most of our focus is on should I say, small and medium scale enterprises and agribusiness and so on and so forth. We have the arrangement AGOA with the United States of America. How will this impact our economy? So that's our first discussion When we finish, we'll be talking to Gifek, and maybe we'll be talking about some of the missing containers. So for now, we'll get straight to our discussions on the entire space of what's happening within the tariff, or what's happening on the tariff with the U.S. What really is happening currently is that yesterday, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Deputy Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, and a host of other people met with the U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, and we hear that the U.S. Ambassador herself was shocked. I have Honorable Samson Ahi, who is a Member of Parliament, and also the Deputy Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, live joining us. So we were supposed to have been in his office, but a few miscommunication. He had some meetings and we didn't get in also on time. But Honorable, thank you very much and good afternoon to you. If you can hear me, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Good afternoon, my brother.
So, Honorable, let me ask you, but first of all, let's apologize to you. You had a number of meetings this morning. In fact, right from yesterday when you finished the meeting with the U.S. Ambassador and you had to go and brief the President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, on how safe we are as a country and what negotiations you are having with the United States, of course, represented by the Ambassador. And all of the busyness that you have been busy, you still had time for us this morning. But forgive us. Due to traffic and lots of other issues, we were not able to make it. And let's say thank you very much still for making time to speak to us on Zoom. But let me ask you, what exactly happened during the meeting with the ambassador and what has been happening between that time and now? Should people in the business space, the trade space, investors, exporters, should they be okay?
Thank you very much, my brother. Let me say good afternoon to your listeners. As you know, 2nd April 2025, the U.S. President introduced a series of tariffs on several countries in the world. Ghana was also affected. We were slapped with 10%. Cote d'Ivoire had 21%. Nigeria had 14%. Madagascar had 47%. Mauritius had 40%, and so on and so forth. And so this has created anxiety among business people, particularly exporters, into the U.S. market. This has created panic in the business arena. And so yesterday, through the Minister for Foreign Affairs, we invited the U.S. Ambassador to Ghana and her team. I had to represent my minister, who is on official assignments outside Ghana. So yesterday, we sought to seek for clarifications, seek for reasons, rationale behind the slapping of the 10% on Ghana. Because, as you know, through AGUA, Ghana and some other 34 countries export to the U.S. market at 0 tariffs. That is to say that because of AGUA, we export to the U.S. market without paying tariffs. AGUA is still in operation. AGUA is still in existence. So it beats our mind's imagination why AGUA is still in operation, but the president of the U.S. will still go ahead and then slap taxes on African countries. So we sought all these clarifications, and the response that we got from the U.S. ambassador yesterday was that Ghana should not personalize the matter. It's not as if the U.S. government one day woke up and decided to punish Ghana, and for that matter, single out Ghana and then introduce the 10% tariffs. But this is an effort by U.S. government to right the wrongs with regards to the way they trade with their trading partners. And so this is a holistic approach to introduce tariffs to amend or to ratify the tariffs regime that U.S. has been operating with all these years. So we also tried to find out that why is it that cocoa, because we believe if you want to introduce tariffs on particular commodities, you do it on commodities that you have comparative or competitive advantage.
Yes.
U.S. don't produce cocoa, but they have slapped the same 10% on our cocoa products onto the U.S. market. And so the ambassador was also surprised that they will take that decision to slap 10% tariffs on our cocoa. And for her, she thinks that if we take the matter to a higher level, we can get cocoa out of the tariffs regime that has been slapped on countries. At the meeting, we also discovered that certain products have been excluded from the imposition of the tariffs. The pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, wood onto the U.S. market, and energy products are all excluded from the tariffs regime. And so, but we felt that 10%, adding 10% onto our produce onto the U.S. market will not be a good thing for us, because if you compare the two, Ghana and U.S., we are trading at a surplus as we speak. In 2024, we had a surplus of $244 million US, and so we see that trading with U.S. is favorable to Ghana business people. And so we have, as government, agreed to pursue trade diplomacy, to sit down and talk with the U.S. authority and get them to reconsider the imposition of 10% tariffs on Ghana. So far, that's what I can say from what happened yesterday.
But Honorable, that's a very positive meeting, and thank you very much. You've answered most of the questions that I have, and I was going to go through. But you mentioned that if it is taken up to higher authorities, for example, there will be a reversal of the 10% on cocoa. Is that an assurance? And then when you look at AGOA, for example, you mentioned AGOA, there are lots of products that support our small and medium-scale businesses that are growing. They get the opportunity to export through the AGOA arrangement to USA. And so if the AGOA arrangement is still in place and there is this 10% tariff issue with the US, what's going to happen to AGOA? Did you ask the ambassador that? Is it going to keep on, or our people are going to have to be affected by this? And is there a possibility of reversal of the entire 10% arrangement when you spoke to the minister?
Yeah, thank you very much, my brother. Yesterday, before we went into the meeting, I had concluded that AGOA has come to an end. You know, officially, AGOA is supposed to come to an end in September this year, September 2025. That is when AGOA will come to an end. And so, if AGOA is in operation and you impose tariffs, then clearly one can conclude that AGOA is a dead entity. And so, but yesterday at the meeting, strangely, we were told that last week they had information from Washington to review AGOA, to start assessing countries as to whether they should extend AGOA when it comes to an end in September this year. And so that was very much assurance from the U.S. team that we met. But they were also surprised that while asking them to review the countries whether to extend or to benefit, continue to benefit from AGWA, you are introducing tariffs, whereas AGWA is still in operation.
Right.
And so we agreed that we need to take the discussions to the higher level. And yesterday, after briefing the president, he gave us his blessings that we should continue to engage because Ghana don't want to antagonize the U.S. Ghana don't want to be seen to go into trade war with U.S. We believe that when we sit down on the table, when we engage the U.S. authorities, I'm sure that we can do something about it, particularly since there is some sort of belief that they want to review AGWA when it comes to an end in September. And so if we are pursuing that angle too, just to review AGWA so that we can still export onto the U.S. market without paying tariffs. And so we believe that if we are successful in getting AGWA extended, then we don't even talk about 10% or 15% that has been introduced now. And so there are so many things on the table that we are looking at. What I can say to assured business people, particularly exporters onto the U.S. market, is that government is not sitting down on it. We, as you can see, we started series of meetings, and we are also preparing to even meet with the players, the exporters,
right.
Somewhere Friday,
right.
to meet them in the ministry so that we can have discussions with them, to brief them on whatever we are doing, and going forward, what government will put in place to ensure that we will be able to contain this problem.
Right. Thank you very much. Honorable, I'm happy about the fact that you mentioned your meeting with the president and you say that the president is not interested in going in trade war, because I was going to ask you, first of all, are we going to retaliate and what are we doing as a country to face off with the U.S.? But I'm happy that, yes, you mentioned the president is not interested in trade war and is giving you the go-ahead to engage with the U.S. and the major stakeholders to be able to overcome this. But most importantly, how are we positioning ourselves as a country to brace up for the impact of this? Obviously, there will be job losses. Businesses, some businesses, maybe small businesses or medium businesses, may go down. So on these two areas, Honorable, because you are the minister or deputy minister in charge of all of these areas, I'm interested in, first of all, employment and job losses, issues about jobs and so on and so forth. And two, protection of our small businesses, those who had the opportunity. It's not just about Kukuboard or all the big entities alone who are able to export to the U.S. market, but protection of our small and medium-scale enterprises and businesses who had the opportunity to export to the U.S. market. What's the plan from your ministry, from the Ministry of Finance, from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, from government in protecting job losses and small businesses?
Yeah, I'm sure you are aware that this introduction of tariffs on countries did not only affect Ghana. And if you look at it critically, one can say that there are advantages and disadvantages with this imposition of tariffs on countries. And if you look at it, Ghana falls below under the lowest tariffs. That's the 10%. That's the lowest. Mm-hmm. If you look at Africa, most African countries, as I've said earlier, Cote d'Ivoire is 21%, mm-hmm. Nigeria is 14%, Madagascar is 47%, Mauritius is 40%, Angola is 32%, Chad is 13%, Libya 31%, Algeria 30%, and Lesotho is 50%, Botswana is 38%. So comparatively, you will agree with me that we receive the lowest tariffs. And so if all things being equal, if we have to go to the US market with all these countries, then we can still remain very competitive. You understand? We will be competitive. But that's not what we are looking at. We are looking at trade diplomacy, engagement with the US authority, so that if they are going to extend AGWA, Ghana will be part of it. Ghana will be considered to enjoy the tax holidays or exporting onto the US market with zero tax arrangement. When that is done, then we are not even talking about reducing the 10%. We want to engage to see whether, if not maintaining the 10%, then it can, go down to say 5, 4, or 3%. So whichever way, I'm sure we'll have to make sure that Ghana get the best out of our trading relationship with the US. Because as I've said earlier, it is in our interest to ensure that we have access to US market, but with duty-free, so that we continue to benefit, to get surplus, as it has been happening in the last 5 years. And so we believe that we will not even get to the point where employers will lay off workers because of high cost of production, because of overhead costs, high cost of their overheads, which they cannot bear, that will warrant them to lay off workers. As government, we are putting in all effort to ensure that the problem is addressed, so that we can have smooth export into the US market, so that we can expand businesses, we can create jobs, we can create wealth, so that Ghana government can also get revenue and resources to support businesses in the country. So that is the focus of government, to engage in diplomacy, to engage in sitting down with the US authority to make sure that this is resolved. I'm happy that on Saturday, White House issued a statement that the authorities in US are open for discussions. And as of yesterday, about 44 countries, including UK, have reached out to US to sit down and talk, to engage and then talk with the US authorities. The US authority. And so this is another window available for us, which we want to exploit. And so it's not only Ghana, there are a lot of countries who want to engage. What I can make categorically to our listeners, particularly exporters, is that government is not going to engage in trade war with US. We are not going to fight. We are not going to retaliate. We will engage in a diplomatic way, and we believe that it will yield positive results for all of us to continue to have opportunity to trade with the US market. Because if you look at what we export into US and what they also import into Ghana, if you strike the balance, we stand to gain when we have the US market. And so that is what we are going to do.
Right, so let me once again apologize to you for our miscommunication this morning and missing the opportunity in the office. You had the time for us, and you made sure that you waited for us. I knew that you had a meeting with the European Union, like you mentioned, and you have other meetings towards making sure that all of us here in the country and our businesses and our employment are safe. And you still made time for us to speak to us on air. So thank you very much, Honorable. We'll follow up on Friday, as you say, with a meeting with the other stakeholders, and we'll see the outcome of it. We'll join you in the office and follow up with interviews on it. Thank you very much. Honorable Samson Ahi is a member of Parliament and the Deputy Minister, Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, and he's been talking to us about government's inroads with the Embassy of the United States of America towards the 10% tariff cut from the US President Donald Trump. So my colleague has been speaking to the president of Association of Ghana Industries. We know that this whole issue relates and finds itself in the net of the Ghana Industries, the Association of Ghana Industries. So we have been speaking to the president. We want to listen to what the president is saying. When we come back, I'll show
Thank you very much.
the press release, and then we'll get on.
Well, it's a development that we've been following keenly because our economics are somehow connected. They are part of the global system, especially since you are exporting and you are importing. Right. So what happens to other countries has effect on your backyard. Right. And U.S. in particular has been one of the major trading partners over the years. And therefore, what happens in the U.S. is of concern to industry in Ghana. We've had this AGOA treaty for so many years. I know that it's supposed to be ending in September, and already negotiations were going on that we could have the treaty extended beyond in September. We're hoping that it will be extended for another 10 years, and then we have to strategize on how we can take full advantage of it. There are complaints that even all these years that we've been part of it, we've not been able to fully take advantage of it. But whatever it is, we are doing some exports under AGOA, and therefore AGOA has been useful. Now, with the 10% slapped on various products across the world, we were hoping that AGOA would be exempted. And if AGOA has been exempted, I'm not sure it would have affected Ghana much because we have 6,000 to 7,000 products that one could export under AGOA due to free quota free. So that would have been okay for us. But unfortunately, the communication we had yesterday, after the foreign minister and the trade minister visited Her Excellency the U.S. ambassador to Ghana, it became clear that AGOA is going to be affected, and therefore all products exported on AGOA are also going to have suffer 10% tariff increase. Is that a major blow to? So it is, because it's an obstacle or a hindrance, because it makes your price higher, and anytime your price is going up, you're becoming uncompetitive in the market. So really it has an effect. Of course, for every product we have to analyze it deeply to see the extent of the effect. There are some products that we have very much competitive advantage, so even when the price goes up a little bit, you can still manage. Other products, you have a lot of competing products. Indeed, the structure of the tariff system that they have imposed is such that if it's to do with competing countries, other countries in the U.S. market, because those countries are also experiencing similar tariff hikes, some probably even higher than what Ghana is experiencing, then it can virtually cancel out. Because in that sense, if, for example, you are competing with any Asian country or Nigeria or any other African country in the U.S. market, and that 10% tariff is on Ghanaian products, is on those countries' products as well, then we are basically competing at the same level. So then it wouldn't have an effect. But then when those products, some are produced in the U.S. itself. If you take garment, for example, garment is a very international product in nature. So the companies like DTRT and the rest that are exporting garments to the U.S., we also have U.S. companies that are producing garments. And once your price goes up, then the tendency is to switch demand from your product to other cheaper brands, and that will have an effect. So definitely it will have an effect. But we'll have to do thorough analysis of product by product to see the extent of the effect. But generally speaking, we wish this wouldn't have happened, and we wish that we would have had a different arrangement that gives us a bit of latitude to be able to do the exports to the U.S. market. I'm aware in the statement that was issued that government of Ghana will continue to negotiate with the U.S. government and hope that we'll have a preferential tariff system for the Ghana. Yes, so that's on record that they will continue to engage and negotiate. So we are hoping that through that negotiation, we'll have some reprieve for Ghanaian products, and then we'll have some reduction in the tariff arrangement that we have today.
Does your office know when this will be meshed or talked through?
We have no idea, but the intention is good, the indication by government side is good, that we are going to continuously engage. And then hopefully, and I remember His Excellency Donald Trump, when he mentioned this, I think as part of his statement, they indicate that they are open to talk to individual countries, on bilateral basis. So I'm sure Ghana should take it up and actually engage, extensively with our counterparts in the U.S. and hope that we get some reprieve for Ghanaian products. It's quite important so that the product that we are expecting and targeting the U.S. market will have that relief to enable us doing business.
Are we to fault anybody in this administration projected?
The totality of the whole of this is that, well, you just heard the AGI president, and the totality of the whole of this is that there should not be too much tensions or heightened tensions, because from the president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, to his ministers, Honorable Samson Ahi, Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, and then the entire private sector community are all coming together to make sure that the country is able to brace up for this. And if you look at it, it's almost as if nothing has happened when you look at it competitively, because everybody, every country has been slapped with this. We'll come to the screen on what's been happening. The Foreign Affairs Minister put out a release on the meeting with the U.S. ambassador. We'll get that out to you in a bit. And then I also have online Mr. Louis Yao Aful, who is the International Trade and Investment Promotion Expert, of course. He is the Group Chief Executive Officer of African Prosperity Network. I'll also be joined by the President of Federation of Ghanaian Exporters, Fitch, Davis Na Koboi. I'll come online now, and if they are on, good afternoon to you, Mr. Aful and Davis. But let me begin with you, Mr. Aful. You are an international trade and investment promotion expert. I mean, even though this is across the globe, for starters, how do you think that this will affect our investment promotion drive as a country? We have the Ghana Free Zones Authority, we have GIPC, we have almost everybody trying to promote investment here in the country and have a GDP growth. How is this going to affect and impact us as a country?
Good afternoon to your viewers. Let me correct. APN is After Policy Network Group. After Policy Network Group.
After Policy Network Group, right.
Yes, it's different from Africa Prosperity Network.
Forgive us. So we misinterpreted the APN. Forgive us. After Policy Network Group.
Yes. So I listened to the conversation. I listened to the interview that you granted the Deputy Minister. And I've also listened to HER. The crux of the matter, I said yesterday elsewhere, that it's a blessing in disguise. It's a blessing in disguise. Secondly, that is another country's policy, trade policy. What is yours? That is their trade policy. There's nothing you can do much about it. When I say nothing, it means that there's no way they'll give you a zero tariff. You want to negotiate, but what I mean is that the policy remains. Why? Because the Trump administration has already made it a message to the American people that they should brace themselves for this kind of adversity, this swing, and in the long term to work for them. So he is already prepared, and is prepared his buffer shocks, and the impact is that, for me, it is a wake-up call for our economies. It's a wake-up call for our trading among ourselves. It's a wake-up call for indigenous businesses to grow, because then we'll be looking south, looking inward. Again, one area that we have to also look at is that what are the classification of commodities that were affected? These are commodities that are inelastic to the American consumer. And so you realize that majority of our exports, and you can tell that as of the last quarter, that which pulled more was gold and oil. And I think those are the ones that really pulled our trade deficit, U.S. trade deficit with us. Cocoa and the other ones were not. And these were the categories that, if I listen to the ambassador, U.S. ambassador, these are the ones that were slapped. Basically, like I said, it is important and opportunity for us to build value addition Okay, do the value addition and look inside the African market. And so for me, I'm not seeing it as a much for us to worry. Even if you look at AGI itself, if you look at the architecture and the manufacturing structure of AGI, what are the various things they really manufacture? You have to look at that one. And they depend upon the US Moses or the European Union for industrial-based inputs for their manufacturing. You ask the issue about free zones and the likes. This is the best time that the law going to establish the special economic zone be ready. We have been waiting that law be passed. Currently, we are operating in free zones, not a special economic zone. And there are a lot of opportunities under special economic zone which look at how to really grow indigenous businesses and expand their export base and help them with market. So you attach that one to the current ASCFTA, and that is a vast opportunity for us that even will keep us from worrying our head, even going to look for negotiations or reduction in the tariffs. For me, I will be advised.
But Louis, all of these are not immediate. If you look at the impact and how we should be bracing up for it as a country. So, for example, yes, you talk about the special economic zones. We can pass the law and easily transform from the free zones system that we operate as a country into the special economic zones. But we are now going to have all of these factories, all of these business move into the industrial parks and begin to do the kind of productions that they need to do. So there will be infrastructural setups, there will be policy directions, there will be power that they would need, everything they would need to set up. That will be a minimum of 5-10 years that we are talking about. Our structure as an economy, as we talk about AGI, for example, the things that we produce and all the things that we export there, this is immediate. It takes immediate effect. So immediately, what do we do as a country?
I think that there are two things. The special economic zone approach, I mean, it might not necessarily take a long time. It depends on how the planning should go. Already, some industrial parks have already commenced, and it's about proximity to resources. That is a very important issue.
Right.
Secondly, with the question you asked, the impact is that it's going to increase the cost of export. I mean, after all, tariffs are a tax on export, so it's going to increase the cost. My concern, and if you listen to the Federation, I'm sure you'll be going to interview him now. There are some little shocks already because the existing stock or the already supplied agreement that are supposed to go within, and this policy, this tariff takes immediate effect. Those are the immediate shocks that most companies or suppliers are going to experience. Then they're also going to experience some shocks in the area of the value addition in terms of the cost on export. Mind you, when you're looking at export, you are not looking at the final exporter, you are looking at those within the value chain. From the farm, if it's an agri product, you're looking at from the farm, the middle, and what have you, the processing, and what have you. So all these people are going to be affected. All at the end of the day, yes, the US consumer will suffer a bit, but at the end of the day, it's going to also create cost adversities for the producer, the supplier, and again, it's going to hamper ability to create jobs. That is something that, as I said, the impact will not be so big because at the end of the day, 80% of our product lines that we trade are all mostly raw products or semi-finished products. And it has its market within Africa, even nearby, next door neighbor. In terms of infrastructure, we must be very determined to really allocate a percentage or 2% to trade-related infrastructure if we really remain business. That is what China did. They made infrastructure a very serious business and allocated a serious budget or percentage or rate of percentage to develop infrastructure. It's most of the time, it's like we don't see trade-related infrastructure as a necessity. But the time has come for us to know, now you have produced the goods, what road network, what rail network, how would the goods go? We have to look at that. Now you produce the goods. How do you store? What are the storage facilities? Now you produce the goods. What are the processing plant and establishment. We have to look at trade-related infrastructure as key. That will be one of the panaceas when we engage and encounter such kind of global shocks in the interim.
So hold on. Let me go to Davis Koboi, who is the president of FAGE, and David has also been listening to the conversation. He's live with us on the phone. David, let me ask you. You are Federation of Ghanaian Exporters. What's going to happen to you? Have you looked or assessed the direct impact on your members, the people that export here in Ghana?
And let me also say good afternoon to my brother there, Louis. I think for me, I want to back what he just said, that it's a blessing in disguise. It didn't come as a shock. And then as a way and the mode of which it came is what is disturbing. Because especially when we have, we have AGUA agreement in place, which will expire in 30th September. So while we thought that if there's any agreement or if there's any decision, there should have been discussion, conversation before you just don't pick up a day to just hear that 10% tariff is slapped on your toes. Currently, as we speak, we have some of the people who knew because of the AGUA, so they have ongoing contracts. That allowed them to still ship, and so the contract is still enforced. With the same, it means that if they were selling for $1, it's the same $1 they are going to sell to. How the president talked to some of the buyers yesterday, and they are not ready to absorb the 10%. So it's only 10% is going to be slapped on our people. When this happens, it creates a lot of problems. But then again, long term, this is the more reason why we need to diversify. For me, what I'm saying is, I think that we've not done well, we are not doing well in allowing our produce to transcend our borders by allowing the Western world to just dominate our trade sales points and policies. And that's the most reason why I said that it's a blessing in disguise for us to look forward and see what we can do. We have after which has GDP of $3.4 trillion. And I think these are some of the things we need to tap into. We need to, so I'm happy my brother spoke about the special how they call it zones. And for me, I think these are some of the things we need to hammer and see through to improve the growth of our export market and the rest. And I think that once there are challenges coming, it is important to move to it. For me, I think that yesterday I was happy that the Foreign Minister, Honorable Okada, moved to engage the U.S. ambassador. But the issue here is policy that has been implemented. Are they going to change it? Or are we not going to negotiate? The answer here is no. What we can just do is to register our displeasure as to the way it was done. But for them to change it, I don't think they are going to change it. So we just have to pull ourselves together and move forward. I mean, the associates are related to AGI and the whole lot. I mean, we need to make sure as a country, we should be intentional about economy. I mean, what we need is agricultural-led industrialization. So what do we do? We need to be able to make sure that we add value to our things, we don't sell fresh again, and look for alternate markets. The Ghana Export Promotion Authorities, the embassies all over, the ambassadors, what do they really do in the embassies? They should be able to promote books. They should be able to highlight well and rebrand all our things for us to be able to just to curtail this sort of shocks, which I don't see as a shock. Again, after we need to work on our logistics because, for instance, if you go to Kenya, currently the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, they have what they call a trade center over there. Whatever goes there is in high demand. But the issue here is logistics to even move to Kenya. The vessels will go all the way to Europe before they send it to Kenya. 2 months, 60 days. You understand? How do we do business in such an environment? This is all the things we are all looking at. And look, let's put our money where, I mean, it is important that we all rally together to see what we can do to help to create a limited level of economy just to curtail this kind of thing that is happening. So for me, I think that I'll go with what my brother said. Even though it hits our members because those who have their sales going, is going to attract that 10% because it is instant. So if there's any negotiations, what I rather plead that they do for them to allow those the contract to maybe those who already have a contract to still penetrate free without the 10%. Then going for the 10%, what we also look at what to do. I think for me, this is what I have to say for now.
But, let me ask you, and I'll go back to Louis and ask him the same question. You talk about AFTA and how we need to be able to marshal all the efforts to support AFTA. AFTA has been there for a while, but we haven't been able to maximize the utility of AFTA or the relevance of AFTA. We have it situated here in a country, and we haven't been able to give the European market, the US market, the Chinese market, and Switzerland markets, and everywhere, we haven't been able to give them the competition that they deserve from AFTA. ECOWAS has been there, for example. We still haven't been able to come together as countries within the West African economic states to be able to marshal our resources, the number of raw materials that we have here in the country. We formed GIADEC, for example. GIADEC has been there since 2019. Our bauxite is still mined raw and still exported raw, and these huge markets will still have advantage over us as countries. We have the raw gold being exported and so on and so forth. So the relevance of AFTA and how we're able to marshal all the forces to be able to meet up. And don't forget that your people with the impact will be losing jobs, some of them will be losing their businesses and so on and so forth. How is AFTA supposed to come into this play?
Thank you very much. I think that even if I'm happy you talked about the competition. The purpose of the ASCFT is to boost intra-African trade. And I always recommend that state parties will go back to the drawing table and really look at the indicators that look at their progress or their performance trajectory when it comes to the implementation of the ASCFT, which is goods and services. The question we have to ask ourselves is that, are we really devoting trade finance or financing the implementation of the ASCFT? A very key component of the ASCFT is what we call factor productivity, how you put to use your factors of production. And that is what America is doing. It's saying that, look, we have been producing over the years, most factories have been scattered outside the US. We rate the service level, come back home and manufacture and produce. Ghana, and as a matter of fact, members of the ASCFT, are we putting together our factors of production? No, to a very low level. How have manufacturing grown? How has the manufacturing sector grown? So it's delaying and protracting industrialization. You can never get fair terms of trade on the international market when the things you produce are in its raw state and semi-finished products. And so it is important for AFTA members to really devote financial commitment for their budget in implementing the ASCFT, which is very, very important. That is what is slowing. Secondly, my friend talked about, the president talked about, the president of my friend you just spoke to from the Federation. He was talking about the AFTA trade, the export houses. Yes, Ghana has an export house situated in Kenya. A typical type of export house is what we have here called China Mall. So you realize that most of the Chinese people, they purchase from their shops. Even here in Ghana, they purchase more of their.
No, even we Ghanaians, you go to China Mall and you see
exactly.
We
said the prices are cheap.
I mean, too much.
We said the prices are cheap.
Exactly.
Because we said the prices are cheap. And one important thing is also we have to understand that ASCFT, I know they are going to have a meeting. I'm told the Council of Ministers are meeting it. There is nothing they can do. Why? Because ASCFTA is not an external tariff system. We cannot come together as a bloc and then face the US and say negotiation. No, it's not an external tariff system, no. It's based upon a preferential treatment within the ASCFTA agreement. And so my last point is that it is important for a very intentional and meticulous approach to really scale manufacturing. And by boosting agriculture, over the years, we have left that sector not to grow the rate it should grow. Over the years, we have left the processing sector also not to grow the way it should grow.
Yes.
And then we've not had a very strong import substitution policies. Because as all these ones are growing, you should have a strong import substitution that says that, look, these categories of products, I am really raising tariffs on it to keep the growing industries to grow, for people to patronize their products and services. When you give yourself a certain time, those industries will begin to grow to a certain level. Then you open up a bit of your import substitution policies.
We actually started, not to cut you in, but we actually started on rice campaign and the importation of rice and so on and so forth some time back, and we didn't get anywhere.
It was an ad hoc policy. It was we wanted it as a panacea,
right?
But it's a problem. It should be a policy. It should be a policy that will be guided. For example, there are certain countries you go, let's take even the monetary side. If you go to Ethiopia, the financial system is so strong that there are certain transactional values you can never transfer.
Yes.
Because they want to have an indigenous financial system. ASCFTA has goods and services. Financial services is part of ASCFTA. Our boss is our financial services. Then my last issue goes with the financial institutions that are mandated by law to expand export, like Ghana Exim Bank.
Yes.
Exim Bank is supposed to help the likes of GEPA and the rest, the GEA, to promote and expand export. This is very, very important. Look, the US, let's not forget, Donald Trump's first term, he came out with this tariff system, but he was able to cushion them because he gave them aids. And so if you want to grow your industry, grow your manufacturing sector, you must be able to give stimulus packages to your people.
Right.
And that is what will keep the ASCFTA really progressive. We, governments, must support their basis, their factor of factor productivity by giving them stimulus packages, by helping them to come to a certain point of it's not just about the money.
Let me come to you now, Davis, and I'll ask you the same question about the relevance of AFTA. And in fact, you had earlier on mentioned how we have to now heavily rely on AFTA, but has it been relevant enough? And Louis has been speaking to that and making some other suggestions that we need to come to. I'll come to that specific sector development issues that Louis speaks about. But for now, the relevance of AFTA.
Yes, AFTA is relevant, but I think we don't see this relevancy because of the way the current state of it. And then let's also borrow what I totally agree to what Louis said. So, for instance, I think that they need to work as a block, and working as a block, how do you do it? Maybe they have issues that they need to resolve. I think this is time for us. It's a wake-up call for them to resolve all those issues for us to be able to move on. He spoke about stimulus package. I think that these are some of the things, because for me, where I sit as the president of the Federation of Associations of Ghanaian Exporters, dissemination of information after, these are some of the things that is not going right. I mean, it's not going down well to our members, because it's given to Ghana Export Promotion Authority now, and you have a couple of things after, we don't even know what they're currently doing. And again, I said that they're able to take advantage of it to do some $1 billion plus, which means that if we make as a block, if they put their hands together and be united and make sure that they're able to fund their activities, their own activities, I think it's going to be a game changer for the whole countries within the AFTA bloc. And this is what I think that we should look at. We shouldn't talk about its current relevancy. We should talk about what we can use after to go. Because it tells President before he campaigned on the back of generating employment for his country. So it is slapping 10% tariff on you to just discourage you from exporting and rather place it over there. I don't think it's a problem. My only problem, like I said, was the activity did it. So let's rather look at going forward. How can access be relevant? And let's all put our hands. Let's all guns blazing. Let's all come aboard and make sure that it works. Once it works, we will face this problem. Because like I said, don't forget, I said, it is $3.4 trillion GDP. So it's important that we work towards the target rate. How much are we selling to our universities? And the whole capitalism in the universities. But among them, if we put our house together, logistics and other things, I mean, the investing, the China box, yes, when we have the China box, this will be there. They are able to promote their produce, they are able to sell their products with their produce. This is what we need to do, and that's the more reason why I think that even though it's after, I think our embassies need to work now. The PDJ as an ambassador, they should give the terms of reference. These are all things you need to do. You need to promote Ghana, promote the things we have, look for market. This is important. Business debt in all the embassies.
So, Davis, I asked the question about the relevance of the after because, and I love the answer that you have given. But I do still ask because it's been in place. We have the headquarters here in Ghana. Do we see practical activities? We come back to talking about we should do this, we should do that, we should be able to do this, we should do this kind of engagement and so on and so forth. Even a common currency that ECOWAS was supposed to have, we haven't been able to have it. And we have one country doing this or one country doing the other and still setting our tariffs. Here we are talking about production or provision of a market for our produce if the US is not going to accept ours. Here we are talking about the structure of our economy. How long are we going to keep talking about these things without practical implementation, practicalization of the things that we need to do? And after we'll be there, we'll be having meetings, going from one country to another country, and we still don't see anything, we still don't see any action, and we still talk about putting our efforts from the media, from you, the industry players, from farmers, from everybody, policymakers, and so on and so forth, still supporting, galvanizing support for AFTA to be able to thrive. What is the practical implementation? What exactly are they doing?
I think I agree with you, but that's the very reason why I said that now it's a wake-up call to all of us. Exactly. Everybody. It's a wake-up call. So I think that was the more reason why I said let's put the past behind us and see how best we move forward. It's a wake-up call because if we don't come together as a bloc, there will be experiencing all the. In any case, it's only Ghana that was slapped with a tariff. Others were, and I'm sure that in the coming days we'll hear more. You understand that? So I think it's a wake-up call for all of us, and I know that people are listening, our DG are listening, the politicians are listening, everybody. So it is a wake-up call for all of us to come together as a bloc and not try to do things in silence, because, like you said, just common currency, we couldn't. Because don't also forget that we do the same after bloc, we have the Anglophone countries and the Francophone countries. Even the Anglophone countries ourselves, Ghana, we are using cedis, and Nigeria is using Naira, and the whole of these guys are using CFA. So it will be easy for us to do it, but then there should be some sort of deliberations, some sort of thoughts. If we didn't see it, but now we've seen it. So it is a wake-up call for all of us to be able to work to make sure that after thrive.
Okay, so let me ask you this question before I come back to Louis. Louis makes a lot of very cogent points. He talks about trade-related development, and maybe we'll discuss that when I come back to you for questioning again. But one other point that he raises is the sector development, and I can avert my mind to Ethiopia, where they have developed their aviation industry, making it almost the backbone of the economy. Here in Ghana, apart from oil and apart from maybe our traditional crop exportations like cocoa, we don't have any specific area of development that we say, for you exporters, we are going to, as a matter of policy initiative and policy direction, for us as a country, we are going to focus on this particular item or trade. then that will be your focus of export or your focus of trade. And so we are supporting the economy in this kind of sector or with this kind of sector. Previous government started the one district, one factory, and however it ended, wherever it's going, we are not able to pin our minds or our hands to anything specific as we speak. But for you in the industry, what do we do? How do we come around all of these? And all of this is towards a creation of a proper economy that people will stay in and not seek for greener pastures elsewhere.
Yeah, so thank you very much. So let me draw a man back. So every February we've been attending what we call Food Logistical Fair. That is one of the biggest fruit and vegetable fairs in the world. And to answer this question, just this February, we relaunched some of our primary commodities: chili, mango, how do you call it? Pineapple, that's blue cayenne. So
they are all in the AGOA. Pretty surely I'll be showing them.
Exactly. The essence of doing this is for us to be able to create a hub. So, for instance, currently, if you are looking for flour, it's either cassava, wheat, and other sorts. But we've seen the challenges. So, what we are saying is, look, we are developing the sweet potato value chain where we add value to it because our weather goes for it. We have the manpower to do. So, once we add value to it, it becomes a focal point where it becomes a hub for everybody to move sweet potato flour from here. Yam flour, the same production free. So these are some of the things I think that we should be looking at. Like I'm happy to ask the same question. I mean, since it's not really the policy itself to really look into our policy. That's our export and because for instance, most of the things we are doing in the raw state, are we able to add value? And I'm happy you spoke about the one issue one. Now, the 24 economy is also talking about value addition. What is that we can do to make it work? And that is what we need to focus on now and make sure that we are out of all these issues of tomorrow. Somebody is banning this. Tomorrow, the next day, somebody is cutting 10%. The next day, somebody will say, well, you bring your date down, before you buy your things. I think that it's about time to restructure. This is what I have to say.
Let me come to you now, Louis, and for the same question. I mean, you started that point, but let me come to you specifically on it now. How do we go about it as a country, from policy to industry to the effective practicalization and implementation of having a specific sector to grow, where we think that in Ghana, this is what we can do, this is what can absorb the labor market, this is what can supply the export market, this is what can be a backbone of the economy if oil is finished today?
Let me tell you one thing. Not that nothing is happening thereafter in Ghana.
Right.
There is one important thing, a recommendation that was made by the after Council of Ministers or Trade Ministers. And that recommendation was for every country under AFTA to have what we call an intermediary organization that will look at the implementation. So Ghana, we have ours called the National Coordinating Office.
Okay.
Most of these state parties have not established that National Coordinating Office, because those coordinating offices are under ministries of trade, who are the supervisory agencies to ensure that ASEFT. 3 countries, major countries are South Africa, and I think South Africa and another 2 more, said they are not going to finance anything related to AFTA.
Wow.
Now, Ghana, about 3 years ago, we launched what we call the National Framework in the implementation of ASEFT in Ghana. But currently, what has stalled is money. Because you need to look at what I told you earlier about the indicators of what we call boosting intra-African trade. It is when you are measuring these indicators that you know you are doing well or you're not well. Again, the things that are happening in Ghana currently is that in terms of our logistics, we need when it comes to ships. Yes, we expanded our port. We also did a lot of soft infrastructure, a lot of things that Ghana did. But what we could do more is in the area of production. We need to grow the industries. We need to give attention to growing industry. If you look at ASEFT, there is a certain clause we call the 3% and 7% tariff liberalization, which means that there are certain categories of products, because of its nature of protecting infant industries, don't liberalize. Therefore, if you liberalize those products onto your market here, your industries will collapse. You do not grow. That is why, if you look, some 2 years ago, Nigeria had an issue of rice issues, if you recall, because they wanted to protect that industry. Therefore, Minister of Trade should go back to look at the lists that they have when it comes to sensitive and exclusive products, which they are not ready to really allow liberalization. Ghana was previously on what we call 10%, 5% tariff regime, where we said that we are going to liberalize our tariffs over 5 years period, meaning every year we'll be dismantling the tariffs. But don't forget, the moment you start to dismantle your tariffs, you are losing revenue. We have not looked at that side. So Ghana moved away from the 5 years to 10 years because you and I know that about 2 years ago, our economy was not too strong. It's just picking up. That is why we've not been able to even anchor the eco currency we're talking about. So the panacea is, currently, we can go through what we call the guided trade initiative, which is good. The guided trade initiatives under ASCFTA is where countries will say, okay, look, we are about 5. We did it before. We did it last year. We did it some years ago. That countries can come together and say, look, within West Africa, let 10 countries do guided trade initiative and selected products. So it means that it will be what we call a medium standby market. So we can have about 20 companies saying that, look, we are going to trade among ourselves under this guided trade initiatives over within the next year or 2 month period. So all the goods that are shipped into these countries are supposed to make sure that they are sold, and then the suppliers get their money, and they can use the taps as a means of the transferring or the transactional approach for payment. Guided trade initiative is good, and that is what I'm expecting more. The first guided trade initiative, Ghana raised a lot of money, and those, if you talk to those suppliers who attended or who have traveled for this program, most of them got value for money. But currently, I think that it has stalled because we are not looking at the factor productivity. We are not giving enough support to these home-based industries who can really focus on. Let me tell you one product, bamboo. You know bamboo? Yes, we have it in excess. Bamboo, we have it in excess when you go to Central region. This could be a free zone initiative. Right. Why? Because you know the uses of bamboo. The clay, we have so much. But the sad thing is, I mean, the clay company that did the guided trade initiative, it is a Chinese owned. It's a Chinese owned in Ghana.
That's the same point we're talking about.
We have the resources. Yes, we have the resources. Then what I would say is that we are also focusing too much on the product side. ASCFTA talks about services, and the World Bank projects the 50% of our revenue to GDP for services. In services, financial services, you have banks here. You must tailor their product to the development of the economy. That is one supervisory role the Bank of Ghana should be looking at. What are the portfolios of these commercial banks in relation to developing sectors? Which bank is committed to developing agriculture? Which bank is committed to developing logistics? These are some of the supervisory roles and initiatives the central bank can be looking at. You are talking about insurance. Why would there be great shipping vessels when they know that they don't have the capacity of insurance companies to insure? So financial services is there. Then we are looking at the tourism, which has also been liberalized. Tourism is about the third contributor to GDP to Ghana. But how are we approaching tourism? Are we approaching the fanfare approach, or we are looking at it as a real contributor to GDP, where we must be intentional about the infrastructure of tourism? I was just looking at the 2025 global tourist destinations, and we don't come in at all. Mauritius was third, and I was amazed. Almighty Seychelles was not in the list. But even though they are the second, because they look at tourism as a very, very commercial, a very, very meticulous source of contribution to GDP. That is the same thing we have to do. I end with this point. The same about tourism, if you go to Senegal, Gorée Island, when they talk about slave trade, we Ghana have more slave trade centers than Senegal. But Senegal have been able to put an island called Buri Island, where every single day tourists are transported to that island on boat or ship to go there. And when you go to the island, there are a lot of local products being sold there. Look at us. We have how many castles along the coastal towards Cape? Can't we develop a kind of man-made island? Can't we have a kind of transport system that only go by boat? Must it always be by road? So tourism is also a sector that has been liberalized under ESFDB by Ghana.
Right.
We are not just focusing.
Right.
And we really look at our refocusing approach.
Right.
We can do well.
Let me come to you now, Davies. And all of these, for me, I like the points that you're all raising because it's practically about a roadmap to solving the conundrum that we find ourselves in and the problem that we find ourselves in, maybe as a country, as a continent, currently from the tariffs that are coming upon us right now. But because we are rounding up, time is really not on my side. Let me ask how you and your industry, you are bracing up for maybe the impact of employment. Are you going to be affected specifically on employment? Louis, I'll come and speak to you on that, and then we conclude. So your comments finally on how we are going to shore up so that we don't lay off people, so that people don't lose their jobs, at least in the immediate term.
Okay, so thank you very much. So in the immediate term, we try to make sure you can't just also lay off people.
Exactly.
Because it was no fault of theirs. So we are trying to see how best we can also absorb some of the things and make sure that we don't lay them off. At the same time, we are also talking to government. It's important at this moment that this is the time that government engaged with the exporters and the stakeholders to see how best they can also cushion them in a way. Because, like I said, if somebody is getting just 5%, and he or she has been slapped, to absorb the job, the person will either go bankruptcy or go to the bank to borrow or something. This is where I think that the trade ministry will have to come in. Fortunately, we'll be talking to Ghana's Promotion Authority. They are ready. We'll be having a couple of meetings. I think tomorrow for Sylvester, we have another meeting with them. So we can assure you that we will protect our workers, we don't pay anybody else. As we look for this market to make sure that we rise up to the occasion. Yeah.
Louis, let me pick your thoughts on that one too, and then we can wrap up on the show. Employment. I mean, you've lined up a number of things that we should be doing and protecting, especially within the area of the AFTA. But for us as a country, locally, how do we shore up and protect employees?
We did a project for the African Union called the reframing of the SME across Africa. We wanted to reframe the policy of SME across Africa under the African Union. And that project, we were looking at very, very important parameters, special economic zones, and then free zones, and the likes, and SMEs. And I tell you, if you visit Cape Town, if you visit Morocco, they have what we call the job village. I think that we need to quickly pass the special economic zone law and develop our special economic zones and develop even more of the free zones. When we develop the special economic zones, it will absorb SMEs, MSMEs, and large corporates. And next thing we have to do is that we have to quickly attract investors in the comparative advantage sectors that we have to create jobs. And like Kwame Nkrumah's policy of indigenization, let us give stimulus packages and support for companies or industries or SMEs that dare to venture into some of these sectors. Outbreak is one. Then we need to quickly look at the role of the central bank in developing the agricultural sector.
Right, thank you very much. And I'm sure that wherever you're watching from, you've learned a lot and what we need to do. Most importantly, the people in the business sector space, the industry players and manufacturers and so on and so forth. And you would pipe low. The tensions won't be heightened as was suspected before. So I had the opportunity to speak to Samson Ahi. He is the Deputy Minister, Trade, Agribusiness and Industry early on, who spoke to us about their meeting with the ambassador to Ghana from the U.S. And of course, I've been speaking currently to Louis Yao Afol, International Trade and Investment Promotion Expert and the Group Chief Executive Officer, After Policy Network Group. Take note, After Policy Network Group, APN. Davis Na Koboy is the President, Federation of Ghana Exporters, or Ghanaian Exporters, and that's FAGE. My name is Kwesi Afie. This has been Good Afternoon Ghana, the Business Edge on Metro TV. Stay tuned for the rest of our programs. Good afternoon.
Fire pomudi ni agobi Ghana fo ni age efi say ya your local spices na ya fra dia ya sankofa natural spice me de go me jollof mu me still